Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning to Ma'am Ayu as our lectures. Thank you for allowing us to have this debate. Without any further ado, the motion of our debate today is: Today, this House believes that the use of masks should no longer be mandatory after the pandemic ends. Some little definitions of the motions are: first, a mask is an object to cover the mouth and nose to reduce the spread of infectious agents such as viruses and bacteria. And second, a pandemic is the worldwide spread of a new disease. From the motions, our team line is that we as the affirmative team absolutely agree that the use of masks should no longer be required after the pandemic ends. In addition, today's parameter is that we just about the use of masks after the pandemic of COVID-19. Next, I will continue with the team split. I'm Hisham as the first speaker, then Isma as the second speaker, and last Aldi as the third speaker. We'll deliver more proof and a brief summary of our arguments. Now, start with my arguments, which focus on the impact of masks on the environment perspective. First of all, people would prefer disposable masks such as surgical masks due to their effectiveness. In August 2020, researchers from several universities including Stanford University found that surgical masks are 95% effective at filtering out virus particles compared to cloth masks which are only 37% effective. Furthermore, based on a recent study conducted by researchers from Southern Denmark University, there are 129 billion disposed masks globally every month. Most of the masks are made from plastic products. If not processed for recycling like other plastic waste, they can end up in the environment, freshwater systems, and oceans, where weathering can generate a large number of micron-sized particles. While with the increasing reports on inappropriate disposal of masks, it is urgent to recognize that by using masks on a daily basis, we would increase the potential environmental threat. Therefore, after the pandemic ends, I really agree that masks should not be mandatory anymore. That's all from me. Now I invite the first speaker of the opposite team to deliver her argument. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as the opposition team, we strongly disagree that the use of masks should not longer be required after the pandemic ends. Before we deliver the argument points of our argument, let me introduce our team split. I am Amira as the first speaker, then the second speaker is Aura, and the last is Maisha as the third speaker. Now, it is time for me to rebut the affirmative team points. First thing, I would like to point out that not all people would prefer disposable masks. Disposable masks are considered the most effective masks, but it doesn't mean that all people will choose to use it. On the other hand, although cloth masks have lower effectiveness in protection than disposable masks, they have several advantages. First, cloth masks are more economical and convenient because they have a higher water vapor permeability, which is allow us to breathe easier. Second, cloth masks are also environmentally friendly because they can be washed and reusable. This means cloth masks are very appropriate to be used as an alternative to replace disposable masks. In addition, the effectiveness of using a mask depends on how it is used. According to Ministry of Health guidelines, if a mask is not used correctly, the chance of getting infected are also high. Therefore, we can reduce environmental pollution caused by medical waste such as masks by switching to using cloth masks. Next, I will deliver my argument, which is focused on the impact of using masks from a health perspective. Although the COVID-19 pandemic is over, it does not suggest that we might still get infected with the virus. Aside from the risk of getting infected by virus, dust and airborne contaminants around us might also harm our health. According to the Safety and Health Practitioner website, the effect of breathing in dust can vary from minor irritation to severe conditions such as heart disease. Using masks when we are in other places can protect us from harmful contaminants that might hurt our bodies. Therefore, we should keep using masks after the pandemic ends. That's all from me. I invite the second speaker of the affirmative team to deliver the argument. Thank you.
Hello everyone, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Isma Shawitri, and the second speaker of the affirmative team. And first off, I would like to review the opposition team. And I have 2 points to deliver on this occasion. First, you say that people might still get infected, even after the pandemic is over. However, the truth is after the pandemic is categorized as over, most of people would have been getting vaccinated at the time. And according to the most recent data from the Center for Disease and Prevention, hospitalization rates are 16 times lower in fully vaccinated adults than in unvaccinated ones. And the death rates are 14 times lower. So it would be totally okay to not wear masks anymore after the pandemic is over. And second, you say that we should wear masks to protect ourselves from dust and contamination after the pandemic is over. However, not all places such as a big city have a high contaminant. Places like forests, park, and other areas with low population less likely to have this increased risk of getting sick just due to not wearing masks, and therefore the obligation of wearing masks is unnecessary. And I think it's enough. And now I have to deliver my argument from the psychological perspective. So people who wear masks tend to feel confident with the hygiene of their other part of body. And however, the World Health Organization warned this for a false sense of security of wearing masks because people who wearing masks tend to not wash their hand more often than people who not wearing masks. And factually, it will make them it will put them in a higher risk of getting sick due to the transmission from their hand. And therefore, using masks after the pandemic ends is over. After the pandemic is over, will only cause unnecessary costs and procurement burdens, and also create a false sense of security that can lead to neglecting the other essential measures such as washing hand and any other hygiene practice. So that's all from me. Now I invite the second speaker from the opposite team for delivering her arguments. So thank you.
Okay, now it's my turn. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Aura Hermansyah, the second speaker from the opposition team. I have a rebuttal to the argument from the affirmative team. You said that masks would only cause things like unnecessary costs and a false sense of security. However, many benefits of using masks seem to outweigh the discomfort. Even after the pandemic ends, wearing masks is underscored to help protect the vulnerable population. That said, if an individual with a chronic disease cannot safely wear a mask, the responsibility may fall to the otherwise healthy individuals to ensure that they are wearing masks to protect the vulnerable. In this case, by wearing masks, we give a sense of security to ourselves and people around us. Okay, now I will present my argument from a social perspective. I have 2 points on this occasion. First, although many people are itching to shed their masks, health experts agree that even after the pandemic, masks can help create coexistence between people who have respiratory disease and healthy people. Experts say throughout the pandemic that the reason for wearing masks has been not only to protect people out in the community, but also to prevent loved ones at home from contracting the virus and becoming severely ill. And the end of pandemic will not eliminate the threat of the coronavirus or other respiratory infection. People spend a great deal of time, effort, and money looking for clinical cures for disease and developing patients. Still, sometimes they overlook the simple things that they can do that can be extremely powerful. And I think that using a mask is one of those things. The second, the use of masks would help people to be more confident in communicating with others, not just the youngster, but several introvert and anxious people are finding the face masks are a welcome barrier. Sorry, otherwise, those people are overly caution about their lip movement, facial expression, and beauty aspect. In general, the inferiority feeling stopped them from making public appearance. However, masks allow them to cover their lip and nose, which help them gain more confidence. Alright, that's all from me. I want to invite the third speaker of the affirmative team. Thank you.
Now I'm Aldi as the affirmative team's third speaker, and I have several points that I've found to rebut the opposition team. First, you said that there is still a chance of getting infected even after the pandemic. Do you think the chance is high enough to make people suffer the same way they had during the pandemic? The answer is no, because most of people would have been getting vaccinated at the time. The vaccination would create herd immunity, in which people would have a lower chance of getting infected. On the other hand, even if few people get infected, it would not be as severe as when the pandemic was still occurring. Second, you mentioned that using masks would protect us from harmful particles. Still, it can only be applied in big cities with low fresh air levels. There are many places that are safe for not using masks, such as natural areas and places with low populations. Therefore, it is unnecessary to stress the obligation to wear masks. And last, you said that people sometimes overlook the simple things they can do that can be extremely powerful to protect our health, and you think that using a mask is one of those simple things? I'm afraid I have to disagree with that. Instead of being an extensional layer to protect ourselves from anything that can harm our health, it might cause the disease. A recent study shows that healthy individuals should not wear a face mask to protect themselves from acquiring respiratory infections. There is no evidence suggesting that face masks are worn by healthy individuals effectively prevent people from becoming ill. In fact, what did we expect from casually using masks after the pandemic ends? There are many possible harms to our immune system and in general health from such constant and prolonged use of masks. Furthermore, the use of masks might make people feel paranoid with the feeling of being trapped in an everlasting pandemic, and it might be also trigger the traumas that occurred throughout the pandemic of COVID-19. So, we as the affirmative team utterly agree with this motion that the use of masks should no longer be mandatory after the pandemic ends. Now, I'll invite the last speaker of the opposition team. Thank you very much.
This time, I'm Maisha as the opposition team's third speaker, and I summarize our best argument for us to disagree with the motion. But before that, I have several points that I found to rebut the affirmative team. First, I cannot entirely agree with the point that you mentioned about the environmental problem caused by the usage of masks. In fact, the issue of the increasing number of mask disposals can be solved by switching to cloth masks. Even though cloth masks are not as effective as disposable masks, they are more environment friendly. Second, you mentioned that masks would only cause things like redundant costs and a false sense of security. Many experts have expressed that there are numerous benefits of using masks. One of them is the extensive protection that masks give to people who wear them. Even after the pandemic ends, wearing masks will help us protect each other from any infectious disease. And last, you mentioned that washing hands frequently is a more effective way to avoid contracting any contaminant than using a face mask. You might interpret such findings from any research to mean that masks are worthless, but that would be wrong because the study's variation in results was too significant to draw any firm conclusions. However, masks probably do help block viral transmission. Then, I will mention some advantages of using a mask according to the arguments that have been delivered by the first and the second speakers of the opposition team. First, if we look into this matter from a health perspective, there is still a risk of getting infected by viruses, dust, and airborne contaminants around us, which might harm our health if we do not use masks anymore. Second, let's look into this matter from a social perspective. So, by keep using masks, we are not only protecting people in the community but also preventing our loved ones at home from contracting any contaminant. On the other hand, it will also help introverts be more confident in communicating with others, given that most of them are finding the face mask a welcome barrier. With the points that have been delivered, it is crystal. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now I want to deliver our reply speech. Once again, we strongly disagree with the motion that the use of masks should no longer be mandatory after the pandemic ends. First, I want to deliver a summary of our argument. The first is a cloth mask is an environment-friendly alternative to disposable mask. The second point is by using masks, we protect each other from harmful contaminants. The third is using masks will help people to gain confidence. And then I will explain why we disagree with the motion. First, there are still risks of getting infected by virus. Dust and airborne contaminants around us might also harm our health. The second is using masks is one of the effective ways to prevent spread of disease. The third is masks provide a secure barrier for people who do not feel comfortable with public appearance. From this point, it is crystal clear that we should keep using masks after the pandemic ends. Therefore, as the opposition team, we disagree with the motion since there is more the benefit than harm in using masks after the pandemic ends. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Now I would like to deliver our reply speech. Before that, I would like to convince you that we should no longer use masks after the pandemic. Firstly, the disposal of masks increases the potential for environmental risk. Even the use of cloth masks would not decrease many numbers of mask debris. Second, wearing masks after the pandemic ends may cause unnecessary costs and procurement burdens and create a false sense of security. And last, the use of masks might make people feel paranoid with the feeling of being trapped in an everlasting pandemic and might also trigger the traumas that occurred throughout the pandemic of COVID-19. Therefore, Once again, we from the affirmative team absolutely agree with the motion that the use of masks should no longer be mandatory after the pandemic ends.